the top of Mount Tai, a bolt of lightning pierced the void and shattered the sacrificial platform on the top of Mount Tai. The thunderstorms in the daytime, coupled with the destruction of ancient ruins, caused heated discussions for a while. On a train bound for Tongzhou, the young man sat in the car in a daze. The young man's slashed cheeks looked a little pale, but he could not hide the meaning of the cloud, revealing an extraordinary spirit.
Am I really born again, or just a hallucination?
The young man sighed and sensed it carefully, and found that the Tai Huang Jing in his body was like a blue dragon hung in the abyss, unable to call out. At this moment, all the cultivation bases in his body disappeared cleanly, leaving only a trace of the Tai Huang Jing's body protection aura.
It seems that I really came back. I actually returned to the earth, and I was still 20 years old.
The young man was named Luo Chen, the last descendant of the emperor's line. Originally, Luo Chen was just an ordinary person, but by coincidence, he entered the realm of cultivation and obtained the Supreme Emperor's Sutra, and became the last heir of the Taiwan line of Megatron universe. He practiced step by step and finally achieved the position of Supreme Immortal. The former Luo Chen could be said to be undefeated in the war against the 10,000 races, pushing all the opponents in the 10,000 realms, stepping on the universe, and standing on the top of the 10,000 Daos. Unfortunately, he was attacked by the combined forces of the three celestial beings who returned from the third solar age.
Haha, the three heavenly veterans? For the sake of the Supreme Emperor's scripture, you did not hesitate to send out the wordless heavenly book and 10 fierce formations to attack me. Unfortunately, this immortal veteran should not be killed and finally came back.
Luo Chen sneered at the corner of his mouth, and a trace of eyes condensed chill. Although his power in his previous life was shocking, his surging spells overwhelmed the world. He was already revered as an immortal. But in the end, his realm was still too low. He still suffered catastrophe, and he blew himself up in the top 10 fierce formations. But this life was different. He was born again and returned to Earth again.
Now I want to lay a solid foundation, and then I will cultivate the gods in my body one step at a time. And by the way, I will get those stunning gods from all over the earth. Then even the three big gods can only be stepped on by me. Portion? Feshi, I am looking forward to meeting you again. The three deities, I will see by then. You are still qualified to match me? When I go first to win a few treasures, I look forward to your wonderful face's expression. Luo Chen sneered at the corner of Luo Chen's mouth again.
Toot toot. When the bell rang, Luo Chen took out his phone and looked at his brows. Looking at the caller, Luo Chen couldn't help but ignite a trace of hatred at this moment. Why he was able to embark on the path of spiritual practice back then was related to the owner of this phone. But that was the beginning of the tragedy of his life. In his previous life, his family was not a rich man, but his father had a house in the county town, a car, and even a few $100,000 in savings. He was considered a relatively rich family, and there was a small decoration company in the family. In any case, he can be considered richer. But this time, everything was ruined. Not long after graduating from university, he separated from his girlfriend, Zhang Xiaoman, and this time he went to find a girlfriend. For Zhang Xiaoman, Luo Chen even chose to give up his bright future in Yuzhou and went to Tongzhou to do it. A small clerk. It's just that Luo Chen would not have thought that his own demise would be the beginning of disaster. He came to Tongzhou with a carefully selected gift, but was beaten to be disabled in the end. His hands were broken into comminuted fractures, and his knees were kicked to pieces. This caused him to become depressed for a long time and even thought of suicide. He became a handicapped person who didn't even have the ability to live independently. In order to cure him, his father spent all his family's savings, sold all his cars and houses, and eventually fell to picking up for a living. Until that night, when the snow was flying, someone brought back the body of his father who had been cold. And he couldn't cry. For the next 2 decades, he lived like a dog, being mocked and abused, even begging for a living. That kind of blow was too big for him, and Luo Chen was frustrated for a while. Finally, one night, Luo Chen came to the top of Mount Tai and jumped down. Not only did Na Chengxiang not die, but fell into the realm of comprehension, and finally got the supreme imperial scriptures, embarked on the road of practice, rose against the sky, achieved the supreme legend, defeated the ancient divine residence between the world and the earth, and became the immortal that shocked one party. Respect. It's a pity that even if he is the great immortal venerable, he cannot resurrect his father. This has become the most regrettable thing in his legendary life, and it is also the reason why he has been unable to break through the last level. But this time is different. Since he can live his life again, Luo Chen swears that no one can hurt his father and the enemies in Tongzhou. In the last life, you caused my family to be destroyed. In this life, this hatred, how can I? Not reported? After answering the call, there was a hint of impatient and cold voice on the phone.
Hey, Luo Chen, call me in advance when you arrive, and my mother and I will pick you up at the station.
Then the other end of the phone didn't give Luo Chen extra opportunity, so he hung up the phone. Luo Chen sneered at the corner of his mouth. In his previous life, he loved this woman as if he had lost his heart, but after he went to Tongzhou, he was looked down upon by the other's parents. All kinds of cynicism and all kinds of difficulties. Because of the family's opposition, this woman finally deceived her father's savings of more than 1 million for her own business, and then ruthlessly abandoned herself and became a second-generation official. But in this life, Luo Chen couldn't help but sneer again, so we can play slowly. Luo Chen put down his mobile phone and happened to look at the old and the young sitting next to him. At this moment, the old man opened a simple box with a look of expectation, took out a painting from the box and spread it out, and was enjoying it. But after Luo Chen took a look, he retracted his gaze in disdain.
What is your vision? Do you understand?
Suddenly, a young girl next to the old man asked. Because of her identity, the young girl has been spoiled by others since she was a child, so she has developed a self-arrogant personality. Seeing Luo Chen's disdain, his eyes suddenly became angry. Understand? Joke? Luo Chen was Xianzun in his previous life. How could he not understand with his knowledge? Moreover, Luo Chen knew that the painting in front of him was a forgery after only one glance. This old man was actually cautious, with a look of love on his face, as if he had obtained the authenticity. But how could Yi Luo Chen's disposition be as knowledgeable as this little girl? And Luo Chen could also see that, judging from the dressing, this young and old was afraid that his status was extremely prominent, either rich or noble.
If you don't understand, don't mess around too. Like you, a hillbilly, facing tens of millions of genuine antiques, you may never have seen it in your life.
The girl said this with her chin high, her face full both semps. After disdain, she has a noble status and she usually contacts some powerful people, so she naturally looks down on ordinary people like Luo Chen.
Twin, don't be rude.
The woman originally wanted to ridicule Luo Chen a few words, but was stopped by the old man. The old man seemed to be extremely restrained, but Luo Chen still noticed the old man's superior posture.
Young man, you just looked at this painting as if you were extremely disdainful?
The old man was also extremely concerned about the attitude of others to his treasures.
Fake.
Luo Chen responded indifferently.
Fake?
The girl named Shuanger got angry when she heard these words, and she stood up and pointed at Luo Chen.
How dare you say that my grandpa's collection is fake? It's nonsense.
Shuanger looked at Luo Chen with disdain. Any passenger dared to talk nonsense in front of him like this. Ye Shuang felt that his dignity was being challenged, and no one dared to speak like this in front of her for a long time.
Schwanger, sit down.
The old man said solemnly, but the old man himself said with a calm face, revealing dissatisfaction.
You can eat young people's meals at random, but you can't talk nonsense. I have found this authentic product, and I have found several masters in the industry to appraise it.
The old man was full of white hair, but his face was red and his aura was unusually calm. He didn't look like an old man, but had the breath of a young man. Luo Chen guessed that the old man should be a master of martial arts. But even the so-called master of martial arts, Luo Chen's eyes naturally didn't look good.
I said it was fake, then it must be fake.
Luo Chen didn't care.
Hey, good boy, I have to teach you a lesson today.
Shuanger stood up again angrily. You must know that she and her family in Tongzhou can be described as covering the sky with one hand. She has long been accustomed to domineering. It is ugly, let alone other people. Even the mayor of Tongzhou dare not be in him. Grandpa was so rude in front of him.
It's just you?
Luo Chen smiled slightly. He naturally saw that the girl in front of him was also a practicing family. She was afraid that she had practiced martial arts for about 10 years. But the so-called boxing skills were really nothing in front of Luo Chen. Even if he has lost all his cultivation now, he still has the breath of Tai Huangjing's body protection. Most people can't touch him at all. Although the old man deliberately stopped him, his attitude when he saw Luo Chen changed his mind. Although he did not have the competitive character of a young man, he was still a big man on one side, and naturally he had the majesty that a big man could not offend. In addition, Luo Chen said that his collection was fake, which made him feel a little unhappy in his heart. It's time to teach these arrogant young people who don't know how high the sky is. And for his granddaughter, don't look at it as a girl, but ordinary people are really not opponents. After all, he has been training for more than 10 years, and the old man is very confident in this.
Smelly boy, keep a little memory in the future. Don't talk nonsense when you see.
The girl named Shuanger waved, and the whole carriage hulled up and stood up to a dozen people. Obviously, the identity of this old man must be extraordinary. The flight attendant was supposed to come over to stop him, but one of the big guys walked up to the flight attendant and took out a certificate. The flight attendant suddenly changed his expression. After looking at the old man, he retired with a respectful expression on his face and casually opened the door of the carriage. Brought it on. However, Luo Chen didn't hide and didn't even look at that pair. The girl named Schwammer slapped Luo Chen with a slap in the past. She wanted to teach Luo Chen a lesson, but she did not take it seriously. Don't think she is a girl, but after all, she is a practicing family. Ordinary people must be able to dislocate their jaws. But just when the slap was about to hit Luo Chen's face, suddenly Schwammer's expression suddenly revealed a look of horror. No matter how hard she tried, her face blushed and she couldn't make any progress.
Go back down quickly.
The old man's expression changed drastically. He stood up abruptly and then opened his hands like lightning, a heart almost reaching his throat. Then he waved his hand at the dozen or so people. With Luo Chen's eyesight, it was natural to see that the dozen or so people were ready to draw their guns.
Interesting.